By the summer of 2020, concerns about racism had reached a level of hysteria. While the vast majority of Americans believe in equal rights under the law and are opposed to racial discrimination, academics and activists often inappropriately obsess about race. In the summer of 2020, that obsession had gone far beyond the classroom or academic conference. It had entered Americans' everyday lives, and seemingly 24/7. No longer could Americans be assured that they would be able to enjoy a meal at a restaurant without a mob screaming, "Black Lives Matter," or even get there without encountering a roadblock of protesters. Americans bought books in an effort to learn how to be an anti-racist, as the title of Ibram X. Kendi's book promised to teach. For those in denial that they needed to be taught not to be a racist, there was White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Both books' sales soared. Self-flagellation was conducted not only on a psychological level, but literally, as young white American men in chains and with whip marks on their backs were led by black men in a role-reversed slave demonstration in Charleston. In Maryland, hundreds of white people obediently repeated after a black leader the vow not to allow racism, anti-blackism, or violence. America was terrible, and white Americans, all of them, were responsible. That was the prevailing new sentiment. White Americans themselves were accepting it as creed that racism was in their DNA, that all were guilty of the original sin of slavery, and that its effects were still all around in everyday life, in the way innocent black men were hunted down by police in modern-day versions of slave patrols, in medical science that still used African Americans as guinea pigs, in polluted and unsafe minority neighborhoods, in African Americans' overconsumption of sugar, and so on. These injustices went back to the nation's founding, it was charged. Furthermore, that very founding was a sham. America was not really founded in 1776, with our Declaration of Independence, but in 1619. That was our nation's true founding, the date when America began as a slaveocracy. The year 1619 had jumped into American consciousness the previous summer. Before then, most Americans would not have been able to name, much less recognize, its significance. That had changed in August 2019. From that point, vandals began adding 1619 to the graffiti being sprayed on statues. What had caused the shift? A special issue of the New York Times Magazine, commemorating the 400th anniversary of what many take to be the beginning of slavery in the colonies, and then the United States. But it was much more than a commemoration. Commemorations of the event appearing in other outlets attracted very little notice. The special August 18th, 2019 issue of the New York Times Magazine was called The 1619 Project. It was a project, indeed. It took a bold step beyond where even the most woke historians and educators had gone. It turned American history upside down and replaced America's origin date, and with it, the American identity.